Thanks, Mick, and welcome everybody. It's fantastic to have such a gathering together, and really looking forward to the day. There's quite a bit to get through, so this morning will be a bit of rapid fire, but hopefully that'll set us up well for the engagement with the broader team during the day. So I'm just going to give a bit of an overview, rundown of some of the high-level things we do, and just focus on a couple of the big ticket items. But I think one of the important things is around context as well. And we're going to talk today a lot about the things we do and the things that are benefiting the industry. But it's really important to remember that MLA is only one component of that. And while we're the visible part so often of many of these programs and projects, it's the collaboration and partnerships that we have across the industry with the government and commercial providers and industry representatives in providing services to the beef, sheep and goat meat industries. That is really important, and it's important for us to keep focused on the broader commitment and the broader team that's responsible in bringing all these things together. Our focus is very much on increasing prosperity. How do we invest in things which allow us to make a difference, to make different decisions, to make changes in our businesses that are going to increase our prosperity as an industry and as individual businesses, and this is very much at the core of what we do. While our focus is very much about research and development and marketing, and those things are our key remits and adoption, so research, development, adoption and marketing, that's our key remit, and they're the things that we are very focused on and the reason why we are funded the way we are and the way that we're structured. But how we apply those things more broadly across the industry is incredibly important. And it's important for us to remember that there's this broader industry plan. So there's the Red Meat 2030 strategic plan, which is the overarching guiding document, and that's the whole of industry plan over the 10-year period. We're into the third year of that 10-year period now. We've got a 5-year plan which sits underneath that, so it runs in line with the first 5 years of the Red Meat 2030 plan, and then we have our annual investment plans which lay out our investments on an annual basis. So we've got quite a bit of structure around the approach we take to the things that we invest in and why we do that. And it's got a really strong connection back to the industry plan, but also back to the industry representative organisations and the Australian government, who provides a big chunk of the money that we invest as well. So it's important that we keep in mind the broader plans that sit behind the programs and projects that we have, and part of what you'll see when you talk to the team about these at the individual stations is how these investments feed up into the strategic plan. So we've got these 6 areas of focus, so people, customers, consumers and communities, livestock, environment, markets and then systems, and these are the 6 focus areas that we have. They're the same focus areas that are in the Red Meat 2030 plan, so the 10-year plan. And all of our programs and projects fit within these areas. So we have to work out how we firstly identify the allocation of funds and the things that we're going to focus on, which is done in consultation with the industry, particularly through the regional advisory councils. But also, how do they actually feed up into these areas of focus that are really important for us. One of the things that you'd see in our 5-year plan and then in our annual investment plans, and all those 3 things are available on the website, and any of the staff will be able to point you to where to find them if you're interested in seeing them more broadly or in more detail. When we look at how we've allocated our funds, you'll see the big areas of focus. So when we look at the things that we focus on that are important, that we see, and that the feedback from the industry are the things that are important for us, that are going to drive prosperity of our red meat sector. There's a big focus on livestock and productivity, and a significant increase in focus around environment and sustainability in our current 5-year plan. There's a lot of work goes into customers and consumers and the community, and if you connect that with the markets piece, that includes the sort of things that Lucy and Nathan and Scott will talk about, but also our international markets as well. So it's quite a big area of focus for us as well. One of the underlying things here that isn't actually called out is our investment in adoption and extension. And in our current 5-year plan, we've more than doubled the amount of funds that are allocated to the extension and adoption of the things that we invest in on behalf of and with the industry, because that adoption component is an incredibly important focus area for us. we're trying to capture some of the the highlights of the year in this slide here, and there's a lot of things going on, and we're all very busy, but it also highlights some of the fantastic progress that's been made across the red meat sector. The success of the lamb ad, once again, the presence that has and the connection that it actually has with the consumers and communities, and putting forward that great story about Australian lamb. We've invested quite a bit on our website development in these hubs, so trying to find ways to consolidate information into a single spot, where if you're interested, for example, the one we're highlighting here is a legumes hub, then there's one place you can go to which actually gives you ready access to a broad range of that material, and we have a range of those on the website, and they seem to be working really well as a central place to go to capture and find information. Talk a little bit more about CN30 in a minute, but as an industry, one of the biggest concerns we hear about is this engagement with the environment and the perception of what we do. But we are in incredibly good shape, and it's important that we remember the progress that our industry has already made. So nearly 60% reduction in our contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions inventory since 2005, and it's more than any other industry. So while we might be focused on what else we can do, we've got to remember the fantastic progress that's already made. And there's a bit of other information there about the benefit being provided by some of the programs. So nearly $55 million of benefit provided through the extension adoption programs last year, but specifically calling out the MSA program, which over the life of the program so far has generated more than $1.6 billion in additional farm gate returns. So additional value being created by having our eating quality program, which allows us to produce a more consistent product, which is now going into these higher value markets with more discerning consumers, and we're seeing the value being created for that. I just want to touch on a couple of our big programs of work, and you'll be able to see more details talking to the team out there during the day. But the CN30 program, so being carbon neutral by 2030, was a goal that was put out there for the industry in 2017 at a similar meeting to this. So we've been on this journey now for nearly 5 years in looking at how we can improve and better manage and better promote the way that we engage with the environment as a red meat sector. And the idea behind this, or the driver behind this, was a CSIRO report which at the time said that with the right focus on research and development and the right policy environment, that there was a path for the red meat sector to be carbon neutral by 2030. And as I mentioned before, since that 2005 baseline, we've already halved our emissions, and we currently sit at about 11%. So we've made quite a bit of progress along this path already. But one of the big things and big advantages that we have, because this is a very topical space now that we hear so much about from a policy point of view, but also more broadly in the community, that because we've been at it for longer than many other industries, we've been at it for longer than other parts of agriculture, we're able to be proactive in the things that we look at to help us reduce our emissions and reduce our impact with the environment. And most importantly, those things that we're able to focus on can also drive productivity. So there's no reason why we can't be more productive and more profitable, provide intergenerational sustainability for our industry, but also leave the environment in better shape. And we're more advanced than any other industry in how we do that. And rather than so often copying the criticism that our industry does, we should be being recognised as the gold standard of an industry that is able to be profitable and productive, but also more positively manage our impact or our engagement with the environment. So the target's about how do we get to a carbon neutral point by 2030, and it has to be a coordinated effort, and it's got to be a whole of industry approach, and we've got to be very conscious of all the components of the supply chain that not just contribute to our emissions, but also help us manage that, and as we find solutions for it, increase our production and profitability. So 4 key areas. So the capability piece, and then there's this bit about emissions reduction and capturing carbon, and then integrated solutions and how we then communicate and adopt those benefits. And the team, of course, will have quite a bit more information on that as you go around the stands. So I've already mentioned the reduction that the industry's made since 2005. Now, a big chunk of this is through land use and land use change, so stopping clearing, and particularly in many parts of Queensland. But that's one of the big criticisms that is levelled at our industry is land clearing, which we all know is not a significant component of what we do. It's certainly not done recklessly, certainly not anything that is still done is not done without significant planning and process that's followed, and it's certainly not the contributor that it previously was thought to be. So that's a big component of that nearly 60%, but we absolutely should take credit and the benefit for it, because when you look at where we sit against the other industries, not only are we one of the smallest emitters, but we're the only one that's actually made the progress that we have in the last 20 years. So it's incredibly important for us to be positive and proactive about what we have done and how we've gone about it. I just want to quickly touch on foot and mouth disease and lumpy skin disease. And first thing always, of course, is we don't have these diseases here, and we haven't had them. We've never had lumpy skin disease, haven't had foot and mouth disease for more than 100 years. Main reason we don't have them is because our biosecurity systems are really good. And yes, they can be better, and that's been highlighted in the last 6 or 8 months that we've seen things that we can improve, and the focus, I think, of the government and industry has been on how do we do those things better. But our biosecurity systems are really good, and they do work, and they are keeping us safe, and if we can continue to improve those, then that'll actually strengthen our position. Likelihood over the next 5 years, and this will change as we get more information, but these aren't necessarily high. You think about it the other way around, it's a 72% chance that we won't have lumpy skin disease and an 88% chance that we won't actually see foot and mouth disease. But we're very well prepared to keep them out, and that's got to be the number one thing. And we're very, very well prepared to respond. And we've been well prepared for a long time, but the last 6 or 8 months has been a good chance to refresh that as well. And the industry is actually investing in quite a few areas to help strengthen that positioning, both here in Australia and also in our international markets. And what we've seen with the exotic animal disease issues this year, I think we've seen the greatest collaboration across our supply chain that I've actually seen in all my time in the industry. The willingness of all the supply chain components to work together to ensure that we're as well protected as we can be, that we're responding appropriately to all the things that are important, and that we are set up in the best possible way to respond if we need to. The collaboration across the supply chain is something that all of us should be incredibly proud of. And we're investing in a range of things which help support particularly those in-market activities. So how does Indonesia, for example, how can we actually support them with their vaccination programs and how those things are executed, but also supporting our live exports into Indonesia as well, and particularly around the support for Australian cattle that are being exported that can be vaccinated when they arrive, so we don't have naive cattle going into an environment and being exposed to things like FMD. Also investing in some new potential vaccine technologies, and this is R&D which has been in the winds for a while, but a good opportunity to accelerate and look at what other things are available for us as far as vaccine technology is concerned. On the website you can find a consolidated page for all the things that you might like to know about exotic animal diseases, and one of the things that we're trying to do with these information resources is also have them point to all of the other stuff. So if you want to go somewhere to start, coming to our website is somewhere to start if you don't know where else to go, and chances are we'll actually point you to where all the other bits are as well. So and if there's anything you think might be missing or can be added to that, then please let us know. A couple of really neat things that you'll be able to see today that demonstrate, I think, our commitment to providing broader solutions and particularly helping us rise the tide about how we can actually access and use information. And just out to the side here, or when you go right around on the other side of the wall, the team will be demonstrating this Australian feed-based monitor system, which is a service which is now going to be available to any MLA member who's got a link to your LPA account, and it's going to give you a base level of biomass information for your farm based off satellite images. And this is technology which has been available for a long time, and sort of decades nearly, but the availability of it's been quite challenged by how you get that entry level connection, and this project has been very focused on that. So it's not one of these things where we're inventing or creating a great big new sexy widget. It's very much on the more simpler access side, but the potential benefit to all producers is really quite significant in being able to provide that base level of information that, like I said, allows us to rise the tide of information and knowledge around biomass and biomass assessment. So Phil and the team would be more than happy to give you the run through of where that sits and the opportunity that you'll actually have from that in being able to look at what your current biomass is and how that might fit in with your grazing pressure and decisions you might want to make with your livestock going forward. The other thing being launched today is the ENVD app. So there's been a lot of work that the team has put into this, and it's been something that we know many of the supply chain participants are really keen to get, and the national vendor decks are such a critical part of our movement management and verification systems, and having an electronic system that not only allows us to do that but covers off on so many of the challenges we have, particularly around connectivity. So it has an offline function and the ability to produce the vendor deck and then have that travel through the supply chain is certainly a huge step forward, and of course the team will be demonstrating that as well. But it's very exciting that we now actually have that available and underway. Quite a bit of nervousness from the team about how we actually get this up and running and out, because it's a big deal, but also it's a very important component of what we do, and we understand how important this information is, and having this type of solution right and working from the start has been a huge focus for the team, and they really need to be congratulated for the effort that they've put in. So there's heaps to see. Thank you for making the effort to come. We are incredibly excited about the industry and the opportunity that we have, but also really excited about the things that we're able to work with you on to help provide opportunities and solutions that allow us to be more profitable, more sustainable, more productive, and be able to enjoy the wonderful industry that we're all part of. So thank you very much for your attendance, and look forward to seeing many of you and hearing how things have gone, talking to the rest of the team during the day. Thank you.